Hi, I'm six-time Paralympian Tatyana McFadden, and it's my pleasure to welcome to you this special Winning Mindset mini-series focusing on WeThe15. WeThe15 is a new movement that aims to end discrimination towards the world's 1.2 billion people with disabilities. It brings together the biggest coalition ever of international organizations who are publicly campaigning for disability, visibility, inclusion, and accessibility. Joining me today to discuss more about this campaign and how it aligns with the 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda is UN Deputy Secretary General Amina Mohammed. First, let me say how impressed I am with the scope of the UN's 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. It is clear that we all have a very important role to play. As a person with a disability, I am interested in how you see the world's 1.2 billion people with disabilities fitting into your agenda for sustainable development. How is our engagement and involvement critical to its process?
Thank you so much, Tatyana. Well, first and foremost, when we designed the 2030 agenda, we did it with people living with disabilities. And so, therefore, you see how you've informed the targets and the indicators would make sure that you are on the radar, you are in the implementation. And more specifically, four of those goals, goal 1, 4, 8, 10, 16, all have clear targets for disability. So I would say the whole leave no one behind, people living with disabilities, 1.2 billion people, are a central part of actualizing the SDGs. So if we don't do it with you, then the SDGs won't be met. So an essential part of equality, leaving no one behind, addressing discriminations, people's rights. You are an important constituency here.
It seems that COVID-19 pandemic has disruptionally affected people with disabilities. Do you feel that our We the 15 campaign will successfully raise the level of awareness of people with disabilities around the globe so this doesn't happen again?
Absolutely. I mean, I think what COVID has shown us is that a tiny little virus can put us all at a standstill. And it allowed us to, sort of look in the mirror and reflect a little about what sort of a human society we are. And as we looked to address the SDGs, which then became off track, they were off track before COVID, but even more so exacerbated by a shutdown, an inadequate response to health, a socioeconomic impact in every one of those spheres. People living with disabilities were even more greatly impacted, as we saw women with disabilities, young people with disabilities, old people with disabilities who were locked down and away from society and just couldn't access. So I think it did put a very big spotlight here. The Secretary General put a number of calls out on human rights, on us looking to see peace in the home, because gender-based violence also became a very big issue. So I think what COVID has done is opened up many of the issues that remain unaddressed. It has underscored the need to bring many more constituencies in, and that when we look at people living with disabilities, we don't put them in a silo, that we see them across every one of the facets of our investments in in human endeavors, in humanity. So the opportunities of COVID to address the recovery are ones where we should now open up the space more to that co-creation. And people living with disabilities need to be at the table co-creating with us.
Do you feel that our We the 15 campaign will successfully change the narrative and remove the stigma that is so often attached to people with disabilities, and that we can move the needle from the negative to the positive?
COVID again leaving us that space of all the things that were unsaid. Suddenly, it was a leveler, and as we look to see some of the horrendous things that happened to people, gender-based violence, mental health issues, many things that have a stigma, right? The campaign is really important now because what it's done is bringing down the barriers to have those conversations, and not to feel you can't. I think when many people want to even sit and have a conversation with a person with disabilities, it's the fear of making a mistake or being improper about it, and so they don't, and they start to look past you. or over you. And I experienced this just in with an incident of breaking my foot, and I felt very, very then like, oh my God, this is what happens in the life of a person who is permanently living it this way. And I have to tell you, one of the experiences was I suddenly saw that everything that we looked at was at navel. And I thought, my goodness, this is the way it's happening, and we really need to think about that. So this is really important. This initiative to bring it, I would say, down to our level, not up, down to our level, because we don't get it, and so we need to do that more so. And this is really a brilliant way of opening up that space.
Why do you think disability is often omitted when it comes to the inclusion agenda with the subjects such as ethnicity, gender, and sexuality orientation that's getting more attention and making much more progress? Because disability does cut across all these categories.
Precisely. And I think that the whole leave no one behind, my question has always been, so who are the no ones? Because don't just say it. You need to look around the table. You need to question the design of a program. You need to say that results need to be seen in the lives of women. Okay, so women, what kind of women? Indigenous women, women of ethnicity, women with disabilities. We need to say that there are different shades to the human person. And so that needs to be considered. And we need to make a concerted effort to ask who's not there. And when we've done that, we need to go further to say, what do we need to do to bring them in? Because when you speak to people living with disabilities, there's additional investments that have to be made. And I think that we should see them as investments and not charity. And I think that
Yeah,
this is what has happened over time, is that people think, oh, well, we're doing this as charity, we're doing this as a favor. No, each human person has the right to live a life of dignity and to attain their aspirations. And we as a human family need to make those investments, because this could be anyone, right? It's not just those that we can see physically. But, there's so many that we don't know, that it is not apparent. And I think that you need to be aware, and you need to be forward leaning and proactive in trying to make sure that everyone is treated equally.
agreed. And it's about smashing those impossibilities and really changing that mindset and stigma that has been there for way too long. The reason why I got involved with sports in the Paralympics is because I thought it's about giving back to the people. I found it was through sports, and I felt like that was such an equalizer to break that stigma on what people thought about people with disabilities. And so it's amazing that the UN has joined the We the15 campaign. And to lead into my last question, this has been so much fun. I can't believe it's happening so fast. As I prepared to leave for the Paralympic Games in Japan, can you share what impact a major global sport event such as the Paralympic Games can have on the changing the attitudes towards people with disabilities?
Look, I think the first thing the Paralympics is going to do is to show people living with disabilities as people with special abilities. That's what you're going to show. And you're going to show it at scale to an audience of over 4 billion. I mean, people are going to be watching this. I mean, I would never be able to, half of what you've done, I could never imagine myself do. And so I think that's so special. And we need to celebrate that. And we need to recognize this as part of the human family.
I would like to thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us about the United Nations 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and for embracing our We the15 campaign. Thank you for your leadership and the leadership of all organizations supporting our collective efforts. I do believe that we can achieve true equality for all people around the world. So, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Tatyana, for being who you are and for continuing to inspire us and millions of others. It's been a real honor to have this conversation with you. Good luck.
Thank you. What an honor to speak with UN DSG Amina Mohammed about our hopes and expectations for We the15. If you'd like to find out more, simply follow at We the15 on social media or head to the website WeThe15.org. There's another insightful conversation to come in this A Winning Mindset mini series. So be sure to join us for that. Until then, thanks for listening and goodbye for now.